All right, are we recording? We're recording right now? Gabriel? We've been recording?
Since the ice cream talk.
Alex is going to have to do some edits in that joint.
Well, we have to just ask the community, what's a better ice cream, pistachio-nut ice cream or rainbow sherbet?
Rainbow sherbet all the way.
Yeah.
See,
but
no,
it makes sense. No, yeah.
This is your
I'm not even making eye contact with her right now.
I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Chelsea?
Right here.
Neither. Pistachio and sherbet. Black people don't like sherbet.
Cookie dough, man.
Yes, they do. Me and my father-in-law would eat it all the time with each other. And my
No.
father-in-law is as black gets.
Chocolate chip. That's my vibe.
That's
a good
for
one.
cookies,
That's a good
not
one.
for ice cream.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See, I like chocolate
all-
in my ice
yeah.
cream.
Yeah, you have to add a little,
a
like,
little bit of chocolate in
vanilla,
there.
chocolate,
Yeah.
right? It just comes together. It's a
100%.
perfect mix.
Thank you, Gabe.
Yeah.
You can't affirm her answer.
Why
That
not?
wasn't a good answer.
And sherbet is.
Chocolate
It's so
chip ice
basic.
cream? That's crazy. You're going to go to
Fair.
31 flavors and get chocolate chip? That's crazy.
You can't have
gotta
chocolate
get,
chip
like,
on a
With the
110
waffle
degree
cone.
day. You can't have chocolate chip on a 100 degree day.
Yeah,
That's
you
weird.
can.
No, you can't.
Why not?
Alizé, what are you
much.
getting?
A rainbow
It's gonna melt.
sherbet all the way. Baskin Robbins.
It's the jam, bro.
Well, it's because you want to drink it after.
It's
Like,
the
I need
jam,
to
bro.
hurry up and eat that
No,
and move
it's
on.
No,
refreshing.
it's the jam.
Okay.
Like
Get,
Dippin'
like-
Dots? You down with
Dippin'
Dippin'
Dots
Dots?
are bomb. No, Dippin' Dots
for
What
are bomb.
flavor?
I get like a chocolate, Dippin' Dot.
Keep it consistent.
But a mixture, chocolate, strawberry, and
Ooh.
vanilla Dippin' Dots. Yeah.
Wow. Cake and eat it too.
Strange.
Wow,
This
the
is-
judgment
this is
today.
strange.
You guys' ice creams have too many
Yeah.
colors. Just
Yeah, you
pick
want
one.
yours to be sage. Who's ever heard of sage-colored ice cream?
I
Get
have
pistachio
legitimately
ice
never
cream.
heard anyone say they eat pistachio ice cream. Like, this is a first for me.
Pistachio.
No, it's
The
actually
first.
good, yeah.
Well, start asking your grandparents, and they'll tell you they eat pistachio ice
They
cream
eat
too.
coffee ice cream.
Well, it's like, I think once
Yeah.
you become a connoisseur of ice cream, then you elevate to the pistachio.
Bro,
I started with
bro,
rainbow
nobody knows
sherbet
ice cream like me.
when I believed in
Yeah,
Santa.
No, ice cream like
rainbow
me.
sherbet is for kids.
No, it's not.
It's like
Listen,
tricks.
do you
Yes,
know?
it
Do you know
is.
It
what
is like
rainbow
tricks,
sherbet
yeah.
is? No,
Yeah.
it's lemon lime. It's orange. These are all fruit-based flavors.
Yeah.
Then
It's
get a
not
sorbet.
fruity.
I don't say
But
I
that's
want
what it
a
is.
fruit
That's basically
flavored
what
ice
it is.
cream.
Basically,
No.
but you
Yes.
can get like the actual fruit, and then so you get the like
No, there's
full
fruit in those. You've never gotten like little like pineapple pieces in an orange sherbet or in a sherbet before.
Never ordered it.
See, you're
That's
missing out.
crazy.
Oh,
You're
see,
getting-
you've
you're
never
getting
had it,
rainbow
so
sherbet
your
with
your
pulp?
ignorance is bliss. Is all
Yeah,
it is.
but that's what. Yeah.
Yeah, sherbets have pulp, bro.
So it's like you're getting Tampico when you could be getting like Minute Maid. Like,
Bro,
That's
you're
crazy.
okay. You're okay with crunchy pistachio nuts in your ice cream, but you're gonna be mad that you're gonna get a piece of pineapple in your sherbet.
I'm just not going for
You're a
rainbow.
hater,
Yeah,
bro.
I'm
You
not
hater.
going for that. I'm
You're a
not-
hater. That's what it is. All right, everybody, let us know your favorite ice cream in the comments or in the chat, or let us know in the DMs. Let Pastor Aaron know that his choice of flavoring is extremely odd. And thank you for joining us for Beyond the Letter. Don't forget, we always love you to leave us great reviews. So whether YouTube, I don't think you can leave reviews on YouTube, but you can subscribe and share and comment and thumbs up. That works. But on Apple, Spotify, even if you have those things, type in Beyond the Letter. Give us a great review. That definitely helps reach more people. We're always seeing how many people are being reached and touched through the podcast. And I love hearing at our campuses, at our church, how many people enjoy listening to the podcast. So thank you guys for being a part of the Beyond the Letter community. And plus, if you ever want us to talk about something or share about something, you can always throw it in the DMs or comment or go on our like little link with a Q&A thing. I thought we opened up today. I made sure Alizé sat here.
Love it.
Because I got a Gen Z question or conversation for us.
Oh, wow.
And so I think we have the Gabe or Andy. Well, in the room we have Chelsea, Nancy, Andy, Gabriel in the house at the table. We got Alex over here on the cameras. At the table we have Aaron, Gage, and Alizé, and myself.
And
Welcome,
Rooster.
everyone. And Rooster in the back playing games right now. He's been real sneaky lately. So I got my little clicker to make sure he stays in line. So there's one where it's a young girl. You know what I'm talking about? All right, Gabe. Have Andy play this one. This is what I want to talk about because it's youth generation, the youths.
Oh, Lord.
The youths. It's a very popular thing with the youths right now to have 16 jobs, careers, and businesses. And so I want us to look at this video. Alize's already feeling it right
Lord.
now. And then I want you to name all of your businesses that you have, Alize, and see if this is relatable. Anyway, go ahead. It says businesses I've tried and failed, and it says
Bath bombs.
bath bombs for 3 months. She made nothing. She had a vintage store for 4 months. She made 2K in 4 months. She made digital planners for 1 month. She didn't make anything. She had a home decor business for 2 weeks. She made $100. She recycled watches for 1 month. She made $400. For 2 weeks, she made soaps, made $30. She crocheted bags for 2 months, and she never sold them, which are actually nice, very nice bags. She made candles for 1 month. I used to have a candle making business, around $200. Okay, Alize.
First of all, that I couldn't even count the amount of businesses that she had. That's wild.
It's like 10 and 12 months
That
or
was
something like that.
a lot.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is if she were consistent, I feel like she could have stuck with 1 or 2. You know,
Okay.
I think it's very popular right now, have multiple streams of income. A lot of people my age, people I go to school with, I'll be like, hey, what do you do for work? And they're like, oh, I work at like Kmart or I work at Starbucks or whatever. And I'm very much an outlier having a full-time job, being a 20-year-old, 21-year-old now. It's not common in my age group to be in your career before you get your degree type of deal. So I can see why people are getting a lot of those side hustles, especially people my age, like trying to move out and stuff. Me personally, I'm living at home because it's way too expensive to even consider that. But school too is expensive. I mean, tuition is going up. So I get it. Like the side hustles, I get it. Me personally, I've written a book. So that's, I guess I would consider that a side hustle. Okay. I have a coffee business that's still going. I like to make coffee. That's fun for me. So I'll do events and stuff like that. And I did have a podcast at some point, but I stopped it because I just wasn't being consistent with it. You know, I was honest and I was like, you know what, I can't keep this up. It was fun. It was reaching a community, but I don't have the capacity for that. And I think that people that are trying to start all these businesses do it because they see influencers who are making their bag online, doing these side hustles, and they're like, you could do it too. You know, you could have an Amazon storefront, or like, you can, you know, sell stuff online. You can make candles. So people are like, well, if you can do it, I can do it too. Like, that's the mentality. But then people don't understand the work that goes into it of like, you're not going to see anything in like the first 6 months. And if you do, it's going to be very little. And then because they don't get that instant gratification of like, I want the turnaround to be quick of like, I'm starting this business, I want to blow up on Instagram and it's not working. They're like, okay, it's because I'm not good at it. But like if they stuck it out and were consistent, I think that we'd see more small businesses flourishing in that manner.
What do you think, Aaron?
I agree. I think people that are younger than me, I applaud that they take more risk in trying new things. So I have some things to learn from my daughter, from an Alize, I'm gonna try it. I love Alize's self-awareness. It was not within my capacity, so I stopped. As long as that doesn't weigh you down for the next thing that you do. But I applaud anyone that's willing to try something new, but you begin with the end in mind. So I remember talking to you saying, hey, I want to launch a podcast. And your perspective was you need to do it at least a minimum of 3 years and ignore the numbers, et cetera, et cetera. So counting the cost, Luke 14 on the front end on what that's going to be. And then that helps to eliminate the noise on what success is. So success for me, I'm looking at different numbers than other people would look like. I want to have this amount of posts. I want to post for this amount of weeks. So those are numbers I can control. I can't control those other numbers. I think being faithful has more sustainability than going viral instantly. And I think that's what people are chasing because they see people that go viral. And then if somebody goes viral and then I don't, then it's like, then I must be losing. only if you don't already have on the front end what wins are for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think and it wasn't just Gen Z, but I think it started with somewhat with millennials with the social media boom and stuff like that, and like a whole marketing boom and stuff. But it kind of became this like strategy of like everybody can be their own boss. But unfortunately, just personality test wise and statistically, everyone can't be their own boss because not everybody has the determination and drive to be their own boss, right? So it's like everybody wants to go into a business where they can make their own schedule and study their own schedule, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times when you talk to really successful people who are entrepreneurs that did it, their drive wasn't fully the fact that they can make their own schedule or have all this freedom and stuff like that. They actually consumed their entire time on what it was that they were trying to do, you know, and even to the point that it negatively affected certain things, their marriage, their family, or whatever. Whereas like the new modern move is I'm doing all these things because I want to do whatever I want, which if you leverage your decision making off of that without drive, determination, and sacrifice, well, then that's how you find yourself going from thing to thing to thing, because you're immediately looking at availability, freedom, but then you also have to be able to, like, you have to pay your rent and your water and all that kind of stuff like that. And so, you know, I never even, for many years, I was an employee, you know, where I was, you know, I had 4 tiers of management above me when I worked at the church, and I've had other jobs over my years, but I operated a side business. I had a marketing company. And for me, there became a pivotal point where I was making more money in my marketing company than what I was making as an employee.
For sure.
And so I had to make a decision that was, am I called, for me, my job, am I called to the local church, or am I called to just make a lot of money? I had to come to that. I had to wrestle with that because I believed I was called to the local church. And I don't know if I shared on the podcast before, but I've shared in other avenues. The hardest decision I had to make was when I turned down a job that was going to pay $200,000 a month to market for a big company that had agents. And so it was going to start at $200,000, which meant I was going to have to hire a lot of employees and all that kind of stuff like that. And so, you know, it was going to make $2.4 million a year or whatever, and maybe make $1 million out of that, like, type of thing. And I'm like going back to my wife, and I'm like, hey, this is like this decision, if I'm successful, because there's going to be a contract or whatever, a 90-day evaluation on whether I'm successful for this company or whatever, but here's what it could potentially grow to, like literally change our lives. And then she's like, great, can you do your regular job and this on the side? I said, unfortunately, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I'd have to quit full-time ministry and pursue this. And that money would have also equaled some of my other clients I had at the time. And she was like, oh, wow. You know, like, she's basically like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't even have to pray about it. I can't do it. I can't take it on. Right. But that event had happened in 2018. I had run a marketing company since 2010. Yeah. So it took 8 years, you know, to get to that point, which had been a lot of, you know, success, failure, owing money here, failing a client, having to pay them out of my own pocket, all these other type of things that, you know, I wonder, do people go into that? And we talked about it with the podcast or whatever else. Anyone who wants to make, you call it side hustle or whatever, like, are you willing to grit enough?
For sure.
If you're equating it to a financial success. Others may do it because it brings value and purpose in their life. Like, oh, I have a crochet business where I sell beanies because I just love crocheting, and I'm just I'm just turning my hobby into some sort of extra income. Oh, great. You know, like, that's awesome. You know, but from the average person I'm talking to that is taking big leaps into a sector and wanting to get into stuff, and even wanting, like, relationships and to raise money and all these type of things like that, and want to call ourselves an entrepreneur and everything like that. Like, the question is, if you're shooting for the financial aspect, are we living at a space where we're willing to put the sweat equity it takes
100%
to get turned down, to take risks, to have challenges, you know, all that kind of stuff like that. And what I see over and over is many people don't.
Well,
You know,
what I would say is someone that is entrepreneurial, it is still beneficial to have a season of being an employee, to have a boss, because if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you're going to be a boss.
Yep.
And a lot of times you learn how to be a boss by having a boss. You'll learn how it feels like to have a poor boss. You'll learn how you're motivated when you have a great boss. So those are things that you can intuitively learn when you become a boss. So if somebody's becoming an entrepreneur to avoid being told what to do, you're going to have a really hard time telling people what to do because you're not going to know that skill or that muscle or that empathy that comes with leadership. Employees have deadlines. Entrepreneurs have disciplines. That's the second thing. Like, entrepreneurs have to be the most disciplined people because nobody's telling you, post this amount of times, do this amount of marketing.
Yeah.
You have to have that driver, and that driver has to connect to the why. If the why is only money, that is not sustainable.
For sure.
If the
Yeah,
why
yeah,
is
yeah.
only attention, that's
Yeah.
not sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I'll let you finish. I remember when I had my marketing company, I went on a trip to Paris with my wife, and every morning for 2 to 3 hours, I had to do deliverables for the clients I had. And so I had a regular job, which I was in ministry, and then I had this side hustle. And so, you know, while we were on vacation, I would have to, you know, work on the deliverables in the morning, which back then we were doing automized social media posts for certain companies. And so there was a client who basically had a package that was, you can get whatever you want when you want for a 24-hour turnaround, right? And that doesn't matter whether I'm on vacation or not, right?
For sure.
So I remember we're literally in the middle of Paris, and I'm like, he messaged and was like, I need this by tomorrow. And it was like a new thing for their thing. And I told my wife, like, we got to go back to the hotel and I got to get internet so I can make this and upload this. It's probably going to be 3 to 4 hours. And then at the time, she was like, this is so annoying because we're this and that. And I was like, well, because given the income I was making at the time, we couldn't go to Paris on that income. We could only go to Paris on this income. And so though we save for it, it was my marketing company that was really helping us have the opportunity to do that. And so for my spouse, it was her, and she did, you know, eventually, as we had very open conversations, understanding like, oh, we have a certain amount of financial freedom, but because you have to also be sacrificial and tied to, because right at that time I was still a mom and pop shop. And so until I eventually closed it down, but it was like I was a mom and pop shop. So I was tech support. I was, you know, email support. I was everything for any of the clients that we had. And so I think a lot of people, we want to have our cake and eat it too, because we say, oh, I want this, but also, oh, I'm so bogged down. I need a mental health day. Like entrepreneurs and business owners don't get until you reach a certain thing. Like, you don't get a mental health day.
Yeah.
You know, and recently I shared that on one of our prayer meetings with some people was I had gotten in a car wreck and my car got totaled and I was in it. And 2 hours later, we had like a volunteer night, and then I showed up to. And so a lot of the people came up to me after I shared it at our prayer meeting on Saturday, and they're like, you know, I just can't believe you still showed up to the volunteer night and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I'm not an employee.
Yeah.
I'm an owner, so
Yeah.
I'm not allowed. Like, I could have been in the hospital with a cast. I still needed to like stream in, because that's the difference between someone who can take a mental health day and someone that can't. You know, like I just wouldn't be allowed to. You know, and if I was really hurt, I could. But the fact if I was laying at home or sitting on a stage, it wouldn't have mattered, because I don't. In my head, I don't really have a choice. And my back was off. I remember talking to Gage, like, how you feeling? I'm like, I feel okay. Like, my back I'm really sore right now, but I popped into, you know, to ibuprofens and we rock, because I can't, and that is the difference between, I'm not saying I had that in me, I had to learn that, you know, but like, that's the difference between, oh man, I'm having a tough time, so I'm just going to kick back, to like, I literally have no other option but to do this. If I don't, it'll negatively impact. I was 50% of the program that night, so I don't show up, you know, it lands on so many employees to be like, well, what do we do without Adam here? You know, and it's like, and then I just was like, well, it's not my problem. I called in sick and they're just going to have to figure it out. But that same person who has that mentality is also trying to do a side business. And they're wondering why with your employer, you call when they need you, you don't care, you're not around, and then you're wondering why in your own personal endeavor.
Yep.
Why isn't it? Well, because overall the work ethic doesn't translate on all sides, you know. And why would you to me, the owner will always work should always work the hardest. So any guy I talk to where I'm like, how do I get my team to work as hard as you? It's like as hard as me. It's not going to happen. You should always work harder than your team. But how can they care as much as you care? Like that you could talk about and learn. But for me, I always took the opinion, like with my dad who ran the ministry, like I need to care about this as much as he cares about it. Because if I do, one day I'm because back then I never thought I would stay at Abundant Living. I thought I would go start my own church or something like that. So I was like, I always took the opinion, if I sacrifice for his mission and dream, one day God will bring me people that would do the same for mine, which the Lord has. But I always viewed it in the way that I thought I was going to go do my own thing. Because for the long time, we all know what our church used to look like in terms of, and you would look at Adam and be like, Adam does not fit in that circle, right? The church has changed a lot over the years, but back then, so I was always knew I'm like, well, I'm going to go to LA or something like that. So that's kind of the way I always viewed about trying to have that type of work ethic, because I want God to bless something that I have one day.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think he'll only do that when I'm responsible for someone else's vision too. And I kind of what you're saying, Aaron. Like what do you have, Gage?
My thoughts is just like what are your passions and what are your motivations? And if you could dial in on what you're passionate about and what motivates you, you can have more success. I'm thinking of this video of the TikTok, and it seems like she's very creative.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can you be creative, but focus on it, like Alize was saying, so that you can continue to expand upon that, right? It may, and honestly, another thing I'm thinking is just like there's socioeconomic factors that motivate us too, right? Like there's people of color like me. I didn't have the ability to just kind of figure this thing out. I didn't have the ability to wait until my 20s to learn and to find my niche. I had to hit it right out the gate.
Yeah.
What was told to me, you go to school or you get a job. Like you're 18 now, you graduated, that's it. So I'm kind of fumbling along, and there's other people, and it's great. Like I encourage that if you have the net or kind of like the freedom to fail, take advantage of that, because there's a lot of growth that happens in your 20s. Other people don't, right?
Yeah.
So based on that, you can be fumbling, but it's like one thing I'm thinking, there's a lot of people and they want their cake and eat it too. It's my thought is that they don't really know where their passions are, because if you're doing it for the finances, yes, you're passionate about the finances, but what are the finances promoting? Right? For me, when I was young, the finances was my lifestyle, but I didn't have anything to show for my lifestyle at that point because I didn't know where it would be going to. Now I'm married, I have children. Finances is important, but it's not important as my family.
Yeah.
They're a means to provide for the family, right? And so now, along with the family, prior to being on ministry full time, I was like, okay, what am I going to do that's going to provide me finances and the freedom, because my family is important? Well, I found that it was a job that was highly stable, provided for me and the family, and then also just allowed for my schedule to be worked where I can't. So that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
But if I was fumbling along, it would have been all these entrepreneurial effort. Well, and I did actually. I went from a job that was stable to more that allowed me personal freedom and being a therapist. And then I'm like, why are we winding in debt? Why am I frustrated? I don't have time with the kids. And it's like,
grinding.
I'm just grinding.
Yeah.
And literally when you start out like in anything, you may be good at what you do, but you're not going to have the traction to sustain you, right? Like not early on. You're just spinning your wheels trying to figure it out. And then for me, it was like before I figured it out, I'm like, I feel like a failure. Because I've sacrificed. Something has to give. I was giving into my business. I wasn't giving into my family, right?
Yeah. My wife is very creative. She loves to solve problems, and she gets bored very easy. So she's on to the next thing. So I've learned to appreciate that. Before, it used to make us fight all the time. But this was probably about 6 months ago. We're in line at Disneyland, and she said, you know what? We can buy this clinic, and then I'm going to connect with this pharmacist, and I know my wife has the work ethic, the experience now, because she's been a nurse practitioner for years. She's in the community, Like that can be her reality. Like we can, and I want to be the type of husband that'll support that if that's really what she wants.
Yeah.
But as we're literally in the line at Disneyland getting on a ride, and we're talking. She's talking about all the things that it could be with her buying this urgent care, and I'm gonna talk to this person. I know the pharmacist. I'm gonna set up this meeting, and I was like, well, babe, right now we're at Disneyland. Would you want to respond to an email at Disneyland? Heck no. If we go into this role,
Yeah.
even when we go to Disneyland, you're still on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Faith is in 7th grade. Trinity's in 5th grade. My job. So we're counting the cost. So while just because you can do something
For sure.
doesn't
And
mean
have a passion for it.
Yeah.
And maybe good at it.
Yes,
You know.
because my wife has those relationships, has that, but when she thinks about her entire life, what does she value? She values her flexibility, she values her security, and she has that. She's just looking for a new challenge.
Yeah,
so now
yeah.
she's a travel agent.
Yeah.
So, to where it is not as taxing,
Yeah.
but she can still solve problems for people because that's what she's great at. So I think for people that are entrepreneurial, having community around you that can ask those type of questions about other departments of your life, not to be a killjoy. Oh, you can't do that candle business. No, you can. But should you this season, because you're in school full time while you're working here and about.
And here's where it could go wrong is you and her could have just looked at the dollar sign on the back end of it. You're like, oh man, that could make us $500,000 a year. That's dope. We should do it. You run towards it. You make a big front end financial investment, and then guess what? You find out you hate it. You find out you can't fit it.
That
But
part.
look, you're locked in.
Yes.
You got loans associated. You have leases.
Yes.
You have 3-year lease on a clinic. Blah blah blah.
Yes.
Blah. You know, it's like so now you're convincing yourself every day, and then you're wondering, almost like what Gage was saying, like you're in a season then that you're wondering, why is there so much tension between me and my spouse? Why do I feel like I'm not spending time with my kids? Well, are you making decisions and definitely when you're, I don't know her age, but when you're in your early 20s or just not really an age, when you're in a season probably like of just like kind of more singleness and you're not married and have like a lot of responsibilities where you're paying a bunch of bills, you're looking at you live with your parents and maybe you have a car payment, you know, maybe you're paying your cell phone. Like that's the best season of your life because the moment you add kids and a larger apartment that you need to fit all the kids or a larger house that you need to fit on the kids, like now every decision that you weigh, a lot of times you are doing it based off of finances rather than like, is this stable? Does this give me purpose? Can I find myself functioning at peace in this role? While maybe if I do have an entrepreneur spirit, maybe I can have some other fun side endeavor type of things, but it's asking that question, counting the cost, like the Bible says, like, and I just see a lot of more so millennials right now making a lot of big decisions for their households and families that are good in spirit. They're great. Like you're gifted or you're a great salesperson or you're great with numbers, whatever it is, but they go, this entrepreneur route will bring more money, but it's also going to bring more sacrifice. And so that you can't go into that blindly, you know?
And I think like as a millennial, we were sold a dream that we didn't buy into.
Okay.
Everyone who came before me, like my grandfather was, okay, as soon as he turned 18, went to the military, 20 years, retired from that.
Okay.
Then went to Sears, worked there, retired from that. So it was always like, get in somewhere, stay there, and then just you live your life doing that every single day. But I'm like, well, I'm looking at you now. What do you have from that? Where are we from that? I don't see the fruit of that, so I'm not going to do that. So for a lot of millennials, in my experience, it was like, no, I remember it wasn't until like, and it's been like something I've like noticed in my patterns. The longest I've had a job since graduating was 3 years.
Okay.
So always on to the, and I'm like, well, and then I had to struggle within myself. Why is that happening? Well, it's because I keep thinking of, do I really want to do this? What happened in this? And so I want to go to the next. So I think that because like we didn't buy into the commitment game, I don't think the generation after us isn't really buying into the commitment game because we are afraid that I'm going to give 20 years of my life and have nothing to show from it or not receive any joy. All that was sold was you're going to be set, you're going to have food, clothes, shelter, you may get a retirement or a pension. And then we found out, well, that's not even true anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, the company could go under or whatever. But here's what, and I don't know, but it's a great. We have there was a recent there was a Republican debate, but one of the people running, Nikki Haley, she was asked a question about the retirement age, which I think is currently
Like
Social Security is 65.
Yeah, I think they're increasing to like 67.
She wants to take it to 70, and so. But the reality is, regardless, and that's silly, people basically, average age of a person is 72. So, and she even says it.
Yeah,
We're
you're
looking at
dead
taking
by then.
what retirement to the average age lifespan of a person. It's like, okay, well, so basically like roll dice 50-50. If you make it to 80, you get 10 years of retirement. God bless you,
Yeah.
And that's a government Social Security thing. So let's just say because some people are getting government Social Security and then they also get like a potential pension from their job, or if their job put in matching, matching retirement stuff, whatever it is, right? And then you jump from thing to thing to thing. And so ultimately, what you'll see from the next generation is solely relied on their Social Security, which let's talk about people in their 60s and 70s right now that are on Social Security, like extremely stretched, most of them. And so we have them in our church, and they always come and they, Pastor, how am I retired? And I'm so sorry. My giving went down because my Social Security went down, and I'm always trying to reassure them it's okay. Like when I was working, I made this, and sometimes I got this and this, but now that I'm on Social Security, like it's just I'm being squeezed dry and blah blah. And I try to encourage them, like it's okay, don't worry, we're gonna be all right, don't worry about it. But from that generation, there was a huge drive that I need to be a financial partner in my church and all that. So a lot of them are carrying a lot of guilt with that because they're having to destabilize their thing, and I'm trying to reassure them like it's okay. But let's just say, which that's an average conversation with me, someone in their 70s who's on Social Security in our church. Just, I'm struggling, it's hard, I'm trying to get medication, and I'm trying to this, and that's government supplied, right?
Yeah.
Take someone who's Gen Z who went through 30 jobs and has no pension from anyone because they never stuck it out long enough. Some of these people have Social Security and pension are still struggling, right? Take someone who went through 20, 30 jobs, never settled in anything, so they don't have a matching retirement. They never worked for it because they just kept running their own business and never committed to something that was maybe a little more institutional or organized because, God forbid, that's anti nowadays, So you're going to deal with a generation who's like completely dependent on Social Security. And if the government keeps trying to raise the retirement age because there's more people getting older, and so they can't even financially handle that constraint because there's not enough people, the whole system and everything like that. So you have that individual, like my fear is that you have a lot of people who would make really great employees that would work to an over ideal working somewhere, but they convince themselves for the first 15 years of their workforce life to go do their own thing, ultimately realizing by their 50s they need to go work for someone. And then you'll have a lot of people. My fear is you'll have a lot of Gen Z kids in their 50s finally going, oh, I think I'll work for someone now. And then what availability will they be? They'll be working till 80 or 90.
Yeah.
Where the government says you can retire at 70, they'll say I can't.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, people now in their 70s who work in 80s, who are working to work for fun is one thing, but many of them go, I can't live if I don't have a job, and they're in their 80s or 70s, and it breaks my heart. But what my greatest fear is, these are individuals who've been part of organizations for 20, 30 years who are struggling with this. What's going to happen? And part of their answers, if they're being honest, they'll say, we'll see what solution the government gives us at that time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hey, good luck. I'm not trusting the government to that degree.
Yeah.
So I'd highly encourage a book I'm reading right now called The E-Myth. It's why the majority of small businesses fail. The book describes it. I think it's by like Michael Greer. The book describes that there's 3 types of people. You have a visionary, you have a technician, and you have a manager. You got to know who you are. And he gives like this example of a barber. Like this barber is like, he's known in the community for giving the dopest haircuts. That does not equal open your own shop because you may be a terrible manager. Yeah. That could equal train other barbers or stay faithful as a barber, whatever. But that dream of like, since I'm the best barber, I should have my own shop. No,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Like, not yet. Because what the book talked about is that barber that has the shop won't be able to cut hair as much.
Right,
Because
right,
he's
right.
managing the
Right.
shop.
That's great.
He loves cutting hair. That's what he's great at. So that was the Erica thing. My wife loves solving problems. She don't like managing people. She don't. She don't want to. So it's being self-aware on where you're great at, what you're not great at, and then having people around you that can help with that. And that's what makes a small business like sustainable. When you have a vision and you have people with you that helps with your weaknesses. But there's a season where it's like, okay, I'm this lone ranger. I'm the manager, I'm the technician, and I'm the visionary. So then what it talked about the manager, because that's what I lean into. So I'm self-aware about myself. And this is where it convicted me. It said, hey, if you only manage your business, it'll die neatly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, God. You'll have all your spreadsheets, you'll have all your plans, you'll have all your organization, but you're not dreaming, and you're not doing the technical things, et cetera. So it's a great, sobering book for anybody that has aspirations to have their own business on like, okay, what's my wiring and what gifts do I need around me? So anybody that's starting a business, I would highly recommend read that book, but have community that can also tell you, hey, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to do this.
Yeah. Did you have some, Josie?
Well, I had a friend who, for her majority of her 20s, subscribed to the ideology of, I want to become an entrepreneur so I don't have to work a 9 to 5, but realized she now works 24/7.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
she was a creative, really good at poetry, singing, all these things. But she realized her life was very inconsistent. And it worked well when she was single. She didn't have a lot of responsibilities, but now she's been married for 2 years and realized this is not it. So in her early years of marriage, so she posted on TikTok the other day, I finally got a 9 to 5 and I am happy. For the first time in 10 years, I have stability. I have a paycheck every 2 weeks. And she realized I am most creative when I have to be forced to be disciplined. So the thing that I ran away from allowed me to be most creative. And so, which I completely blew my mind and changed my perspective. But a question that I have, because I do see a lot of people who settle into a job but get comfortable living just paycheck to paycheck. So they have committed to a job, but the job only allows them to live a certain lifestyle. And it's not the worst, but it's not a lifestyle that they see for their family. So what would you guys say to that person who in their singles committed to a job that fits for them, but now they're married, starting to have kids, and they're like, okay, this income is not providing for the family that I have. How would you encourage that person who is struggling financially? Because I think a lot of Gen Z, even millennials, because I'm right in between, are driven financially and are driven towards, I'm doing this because my one stream of income is not providing the life that I need. And it's not this extravagant life. It's just a comfortable one.
I would argue, and I would love to hear other thoughts. It may not be that person is driven financially. They may be driven by comparison. So like step one is
100%.
live in your means today.
For sure.
It takes time for incremental growth, for like financial stability. So when I see my friends getting cars, that doesn't equal I get a car.
I get a car. Yep.
Right.
So, okay, I'm driven by this financial success. No, be driven by your values and just stay in your lane. So there's certain level. There's levels. There's just levels. I'm not at that level, and being content that I'm not at that level yet. And that could be a motivator. I want to strive. I want to dream. Of course. But when I do my budget, I have certain protocols that I want to have in place and that's discipline. I'm not going to spend over this amount of money because I have kids.
Yes.
Because I have this mortgage. And then once you do that over a sustained period of time and you're saving, and then I have a desire for more, go to school during that time. Go on YouTube University during that time. Listen to podcasts, read books, get knowledge on where you want to grow, and then do a both and.
Yeah.
So you work in that job, you got the benefits, but so it's going to be a grind season. And then like Pastor Adam said, there may be a season to where, okay, I have this opportunity, I have that opportunity. Where am I called? Your community will help that. He decided I'm called here. That was less money at that time, but at the same token, he's more fulfilled.
Yes, that's great.
And I would add to that, like when you're transitioning from singleness to now marriage, it's not a me decision, it's a we decision. So like,
I like it.
for me, when I went from my first job from a group home to now more entrepreneurial, I had that conversation with my wife. We talked about all the pros and cons. She allowed me the space to go through that and allowed me also the space to fail. Because we went back and talked about it, and we like, and I had to look at her. I was like, I failed. This was terrible. But she didn't judge me. She didn't condemn me. She said, okay, what are we doing now? Knowing that I had a plan on the other side of that. So I didn't just go into it blindly. We weighed all the pros and cons. So how long are we going to do this for? We did it for that sustainable period. We said, okay, it's no longer sustainable. What's next? Gave her this. What do you think about going into this? This is all the pros and cons. Boom, we're good. We get right back on the same page because I'm not making this decision by myself. I'm making it with my partner. I think when we're in our singleness, we do get comfortable making decisions by ourselves, but that can also be the biggest crutch that we have because we never go to other people and say, what do you think about, like, whether it's a mentor or someone.
You've never had to consider anybody else.
For sure. So you don't know what, a 401k is. You don't know what a pension is. You don't know, like, there were things in, being a therapist, I didn't know working for the county had so many benefits outside of a paycheck and stability.
Yes.
That because I didn't ask the questions. But then when I finally reached out to a mentor, I was like, hey, so what do you think? She said, well, look, entrepreneur, you have flexibility. Well, but if you work for a county or someone, you have stability. What is your biggest priority right now?
Yeah.
But I think us, for the millennials, what I did in my youth, and when you're in your 20s, and for maybe Gen Zs, I don't know, Jose, you can, but I think we're just so used to going to TikTok to tell us what to do. We're so used to going into social media to tell us, because we're basing it, like you said, comparison to everyone else, and saying, hold on, who do I trust in my life? Who's already doing it? Who's been there before? What would you say I should do? Cool. Yeah. Next person. What would you? And then now we have all this wealth of wisdom from people who actually know us than people who we think got it figured out. Yeah. Because I'm still thinking, like, it's just on my head, like, because to put that out there, you have to be comfortable. Like that TikTok, you have to be comfortable, and you have to be, like, somewhat, I would say, secure putting that out there. My very humble assessment, and it could be completely wrong, I might be missing it, but I feel like she has something that is allowing her the freedom and flexibility to do that. So praise God for her for doing it. Not everyone.
Well, here's what's crazy though is, while we were talking early on, I went and looked at this girl's page, and that video alone had 10 million views.
Wow.
Which it could be like new or something like that, but she has about 9,000 followers, which it's still on TikTok. That's a very high number. And almost every one of her videos has 50 to 200,000 views, right? Okay. And she's selling, like, her new business, it seems like, is selling women's jewelry. But I'm like, girl, with how well you made that video and how many views you're getting, you could work for a Fortune 500 company social media team and make at minimum $150,000 a year or whatever, you could, sorry, you don't have any more freedom, and sorry, you don't have flexibility, you got deadlines now, all that stuff like that. But you don't have to go from making crochet bags to soaps to blah, 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 to blah, blah. And I don't know what her financial status is. She's definitely enough flexibility to do those endeavors, but I don't know if she's got her own place or whatever, but you look at the talent inside of her. For sure. And she might already be doing that, and it's just not said on her social media, because that's another thing a lot of people like to do is, when they make a good living somewhere, they don't like to list it, and then they make it sound like their side business is what supplies their lifestyle, when really it's the fact that you work at corporate for McDonald's, or whatever, It's like, just share that. That'll give us a lot of perspective on why you're on vacation. It's how my soap company got me to Barbados. It's like, no, you're upper tier management at McDonald's. Just say that so we know that, just like, oh my gosh, no one lists that, right? They'll put entrepreneur. I know someone specifically, they make like $250,000 a year. On their page says entrepreneur, but they actually work for a consulting firm. And that's how they actually, like, that's how they, and they're always like, oh, I spoke to this group of people, and it's always very impressive. And you're thinking, oh wow, like, this entrepreneur is killing it, and they're not. Their actual entrepreneurship is not killing it. They work for a company that's killing it, and but they're crediting it as if it's like their own company that's taking them to New York for this trip or whatever. And it's like, that's just not true. Don't falsify. That's the falsification of social media nowadays, right? Just be honest where you're at, and be proud of where you're at, because other people will look at that. If you're proud about where you're at, if you're confident where you're at, other people will look at that as a positive thing rather than if you feel like you have to hide it, then people are going to go, what else is there to this person? Because I always thought this person was successful. And then when I met with them, come to find out they work for someone. I thought their success was from the fact that they are reading these books or whatever, like they said, and it's just not true. So to me, you want to be truthful where you're at. So I feel like this girl, if she's not already, like she would really thrive if she was running a company social media, you know, especially on TikTok. Like she'd be crushing it. She'd get paid very well doing that, you know, and is she or isn't she? But like I want to be running towards that. So I think the new age person, millennial and Gen Z, I think we have to carry more of an immigrant mentality when it comes to work ethic and work.
Yes.
Because I can't tell you the amount of times I've met people either in our church or around, and I'm like, oh, you know, where do you do? What do you work? And they're like, oh, I'm a receptionist for a medical clinic. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And they're like, well, when I was in the Philippines, I was a doctor, and I have my doctorate, but when I came to the United States, they don't recognize that, but it's better education for my kids. It's a better opportunity for my kids. And so my husband, he was also a vet, but now he works as a rancher, you know, and you're like, oh shoot, like you really grinded this thing out to try to give your kids that next season. Like maybe you did well in Philippines, but you looked at or you did okay in your eyes, but you looked at the opportunities that your kids could get, and you made that sacrifice. So I think more young people, because I can't tell how many times I've talked to someone who's young, is like, well, but I don't want to leave my family, or I don't want to leave this city because it's this, or I like my apartment and I don't. It's like, no, you need to move to another state.
Yeah.
You need to, you know, or you need to go here and try to get a job here. And one day I was talking to someone, we had an open position. Someone was very talented, very gifted. And they said how I would, we were at lunch. They said, I would love to work. Like it'd be my dream to work at the church in this position. I'm like, oh, that's great. A very successful person. I'm like, that's great. It was a girl. I was like, you should apply for it. And then she was like, oh no, I would never, you know. And I'm like, why? She was like, because it's like pays significantly less than what I'm making right now. And I was like,
it's not your dream.
And I was like, oh, so do you enjoy what you're doing? And she's like, no, I don't. I would love to be doing that, you know, with the position at the church. And I'm like, oh, so like what's stopping you? And they're
what's
like,
the issue?
They're like, well, I'd have to move, because they lived like an hour and a half away. They're like, well, I'd have to move. And I really, initially off that salary, I wouldn't be able to have my own place. So I'd probably have to move in with my parents, and they're not married or anything like that. And I'm like, okay, so all I'm hearing from you is positives right now. You get to move out of your apartment, get to go back with your parents. You get a stack. You get to do something that to you it feels like a dream that you feel like you'd be really good at. I'm encouraging you should apply to it. By the way, I'm the boss, so me encouraging you to apply for something is going to go well for you. You know, like I'm not hearing any negatives. And to her, the negative was, I don't get my own place.
Yeah.
I don't get as much money, which, okay, granted, that may be a possibility and limited. But I'm hearing from you that it would bring so much purpose. And that person still to this day does not enjoy. They've gone through 3 jobs since we've had that conversation, and every time has just always been that they want to make more, but they hate it every time.
I want to touch on both of your points.
Yeah. No,
first.
Go ahead, Alize.
Okay.
Cut me off.
I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out when to interject.
That's it. That's the time to interject.
To Pastor Gage's point, when you were saying like it wasn't a me conversation, it was a we conversation. I think that in your singleness, something that not many single people do is think about that we conversation, even if there isn't a we yet. Because I'll talk to my friends and I'll be like, you know, I'm going to school. I don't like school. I don't want to be in school. I'd rather not. But I'm doing it for my future because I intend to be married. I intend to have kids. And so obviously having a bachelor's and stuff will help me further those dreams, you know? So I think about that we conversation, you know, even if it's not right now happening, I'm like, you know what? I am going to have those kids in the future. I'm going to have a spouse, and I have to think about what sacrifices I need to make right now with the time that I have, whether that be working more hours, trying to figure out a side hustle, doing savings in another country, whatever it is that's going to help me further my future in 10 years. Like if it's going to make me a better person in 10 years and it's going to help me with my kids and we're going to be stable and have a life, then I'm willing to make those extra sacrifices right now, lose that sleep or whatever the case is, not have a social life, because I know that what I'm investing into is going to be better than what I have right now. And I think that not a lot of people who are single do that. And then I forgot what I was going to say about your point.
Thank you.
Talking about a few things. And you were the girl with the social media job. When you said that she has a lot of talent, I agree. I tell people all the time, they'll be like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I do social media for a church. And they're like, well, how is that? And I'm like, I absolutely love it. There is a lot of unseen opportunities here that I didn't know were possible. Before I started working at this church, a little backstory, I moved out of my mom's house.
I listened to your podcast when you first got the job here. I listened to that whole episode.
Really?
Yeah.
What was your podcast called?
It's called Sprouting Joy. So the reason it was called Joy was because my name in Hebrew and French means joy. So that was like the title.
And her second week working here, she did an episode on what's it like working for a church.
Did I really?
And I listened to it, and I thought it was number one, I thought it was very good, but I also thought it was really funny because you said it's a mega church, but it's not like other mega churches. You said something like it's a church you'd actually like to go to and meet people. You said something like that. Like it's a big church, but it's not the big churches you've seen on TV. It's a better church than those big churches. You said something like that.
I think
and the way you worded it was like, I was like, I need to put that on a T-shirt. You know.
That's so funny. So yeah, I moved out of my mom's house when I was 17 into my
I'll be telling you, I'll be
grandparents'
watching
house.
all you guys. Everyone thinks I'm lying.
I believe it.
When I tell the staff, I got post notifications
Yeah,
on
he's
all you
not
guys.
I believe it.
But not to be like catch someone. It's like just to silently cheer on, you know, and see what everybody's doing, and you know, so I know what to say when I talk to them.
Shepherd vibes.
Respectful.
Yeah.
And so when I moved into my grandparents' house, I didn't know a lick about money. I didn't work a job. I was 17. What kind of job was I gonna be working, right? But I will say that my grandparents, especially my grandma, is an absolute pillar in getting me where I am financially today.
Okay.
At 18, she got me a savings for 10 years in Costa Rica. So by the time I'm 28, I'll have $100,000 in Costa Rican money to buy property out there, have a home. She taught me how to use a credit card. She helped me buy both of my first 2 cars, got me my first job, got me my second job, got me my third job, and cheered me on when I got this job. And so I think that it's important, you know, when you're in your early years to steward your finances well. I feel like a lot of people think it's just play money, and they're just like, okay, whatever, right now, it doesn't matter. And then when I actually get to like a serious adult age, then it's going to matter. But that girl, like you were saying, she could make a lot of money doing social media. I think that it's an untapped talent, and I'm really grateful to you and the team here who decided to hire a 19-year-old, no degree student who had literally been doing social media as a volunteer.
Well, I thought you had your degree, but that was a miscommunication in HR meeting. So, no, I'm just kidding.
But you know what? Now that your foot's in the door, in my years of management, I have valued someone with a positive attitude than their credentials. So one of the things I've noticed about you is like the tasks and the projects that have been assigned to you, you take them on with joy. Like you take, oh, okay, cool. All right, let's do it. Like, you know, or like the times where we'll see each other. Okay, I'll walk with you. I got this idea. What do you think? You know, so I think we can learn from your attitude in the workspace, because what you're learning is like they're shifting priorities. There's certain things. So you're learning all these skills in time management that, let's say 10 years from now, you're in Costa Rica and you have a coffee business. There's certain plays that you learned from this organization. Does that make sense? But I think sometimes, you know, people get the job. That doesn't mean that's the finish line. That's the start line. Like, what is your work ethic? What is your passion? What is your attitude? What are you learning? So that way, if you don't stay here, you can take that somewhere else. Because no matter where you take it, you got to take a good attitude, because you want to attract customers and clients and so forth. So
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a good example that you say your grandmother? Your grandmother said that, you know, for someone, you know, in different shoes, you don't get that example, that stewardship. You don't get that teaching or education. So it's like, I mean, for now, it's like the challenges for people listening to the podcast is like, how can we do what your grandmother did to the next generation?
Yep.
Because Pastor Adam's concern is going to continue. There's going to be people who are coming up who are probably not going to buy into dreams that we're selling them. They're going to hope in all these other things in the government, but they're not going to have systems in place, knowledge and tools that can help them be sustainable, right? Whether it's in, you know, and another thought that's coming to my head is like, I feel like we've lost the art of sacrifice and submission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
before, they were willing to sacrifice. They were willing to submit to someone, to a bigger dream, a bigger vision, and say, these are the talents that I have. Let's promote and push that forward. I know it's going to be rough, but I can see the fruit on the other side. I don't think we have that anymore. We want it right here, right now. You know, millennials are called the microwave generation, and that's how it was. You know, you go and put a Hot Pocket in there, 2 minutes, you're good to go.
Yeah.
It's not reality of this world. The reality is what your grandmother's doing. Hey, I have this information. Here you go. And you know what? I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to set it up for you so that this is foolproof. All you need to see is how it's going to, you know, matriculate, how it's going to increase. And then I'm going to hand things off to you as you go. And then even the credit card here, I'm just going to show it, but I'm not going to give it to you. I may even hold on to it so that you can see how this is going to benefit you in those 10 years so that you can continue to live life, have this cushion, but then on the other side is going to be that. And so I'm just encouraged by what you've said, because having 3 girls, it's like, I want to do that for them now. I don't want to set the example of like, hey, you graduated, get a job or go to school.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you have to be productive, but you can do it in the safety of this home.
Yeah.
You'll always have a bedroom. You'll always have a place to fail. Please don't feel that you have to leave. And then as you're failed, like let's, and what I'm learning, fail well. Let's learn. You failed, cool, let's call it, let's come back, let's talk about it, what can we have done better, and then you know what, here are these systems in place, don't even worry about it, baby, we got you.
Yeah.
So I thank you for sharing that, because it encourages and challenges me in this season right now.
Yeah, to that same regard, when I was 20, I was dating a girl whose father was very successful, and he had amassed a financial portfolio of about $10 million at the time, which nowadays, 14 years later or whatever, it'd be a lot more. And I remember he sat me down one day, because I had my dad came from East LA, and my dad, everything my dad did, he like really worked hard for. And so even my dad would tell us, and he said before in his preaching, like, when I bought land in the church and blah, blah, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what a interest rate was. I didn't know what a down payment was. So none of that was passed down in the Hispanic community, other than some really good just work ethic lessons. And then you kind of, if you have a grandparent like yours who learned probably from her mistakes more than anything, was just like, hey, I'm going to help my granddaughter, which kind of that's how my dad was. But he wouldn't talk about the financial aspect too much. He really would push me really wanted me to do a degree in business, because my dad learned from so many mistakes at not being good at business that now he would be known as being very good, but he stumbled along and learned through mistake. So I was dating this girl who her dad was good at business. And so he had this big portfolio. He sat me down one day at 20, and I'll never forget. And it's really what changed things for me was, he said, so if, because what he was doing at the time was him and his wife were adding the girl I was dating, their daughter, to their will and their portfolio. And so they were making her decide on stock options and and they were trying to teach her. And so I'm just like interested. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I don't even know what a stock option is, So he sits down and he's like, okay, so let's just say you rely on Social Security one day for you to retire. And he's like, he puts it down. The average person, gets paid X a month with Social Security, $2,500 a month, $3,000 a month, or whatever. And he's like, let's just say maybe you get your mortgage paid off by then, a 30-year mortgage by the time you're 65 or whatever. Let's hope you have no mortgage, blah, 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 food, blah, blah, blah. So he kind of ends it, and he goes, so basically a month you're spending $3,000. So your Social Security is paying you enough to live by. You're in your 60s now, can't go on no vacation, can't pay off, can't anything, right? He's like, your Social Security is paying you exactly. He said, okay, let's just say you pay Social Security and you take $200 a month at 20 years old. And then he did like a second graph, and he did like a compounding interest graph. And he said, let's just say that you did $200 a month starting at 20 years old. And you put away, he's like, you could do $200. Everyone could do $200. We buy at least $100 worth of coffee a month, right? So he's like, you could do $200 a month. So he puts that, and he goes, let's say you retire at 65 while your Social Security's going. He says, he did this like whole number and stuff. He's like, at a compounding interest rate of blah, 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 by time you get to retirement, you'll have $4 million in a savings account with $200 a month starting at 20 years old. If you're going to retire at 60 or 65, that's 45 years of $200 a month. Like, he's like, I'm not talking about 1,000. He's like, let's just say you make more money one day. You can actually increase that. He goes, but this is just whatever that came out to, right? I don't have the graph on me. And he goes, and you could actually keep that in the bank and live off the interest as much as you want. And you will make 5 times as much a month from if you just relied on the government to give you Social Security. And so when he broke it down to like how simply the fact of a couple $100s a month in yourself, like you doing the work, you're not just relying on the federal government or relying on a pension, but allowing both to work with you and seeing where you can find, stretching that income. It changed my view on how I'm supposed to responsibly look at the future and what that could look like when I'm older. Play me out a view 40 years from now, what my life looks like, and then ask me what I want in 40 years from now. I do want to have freedom. I do want to be able to go to places. I do want to be able to enjoy certain things. I also want to do that. Most of us millennial Gen Z now, we also want to do that now, young as well, which that's changed a lot because the older generation believed we'll live when we're 60, and then they realized they had hip replacements and knee replacements, and so they can't even walk up hills in Israel, and they're like, uh-oh, I waited till I was 65 to go to Israel. I should have went when I was 30, So there's those kind of things that learned from. But for me, going to your point about Alizé's grandma and stuff like that, having someone walk alongside of you and give you a really clear picture, because most parents are just trusting the education system does it for their kids. You're taking terrible. Economics, they're not teaching you that stuff. They're barely tapping on it. Stuff. Maybe college, you might hear some stuff, but at the end of the day, you're not hearing from someone unless you're taking a business class, a master's in business. No one else is someone studying, marketing, communications, or history is not being taught about their financial future. Only someone in business school, right?
For sure.
Which that's where the mistake is happening, right? Because you have so many young people who baby boomer parents are a little jaded from the whole thing, so they don't really have good advice because they're like, I'm not really happy how this stuff turned out either. And like you said, like we were kind of sold that Social Security and other stuff was going to take care of us, and it's really not, and I'm hearing all these always risk things and all these things. So then they're like, they don't even want to advise in that direction, but then they're like, but I was not taught really anything else. So I don't know. So now we're like kind of in this middle ground where everyone's kind of, that's why for me, I think being financially stewarding financially over your own house and income is probably the most important. It's the best bet for Gen Z to do. Yes. So if you are going to make soap and you make $100, put 50 in a retirement savings.
Yes.
You got to, the sooner you can start that and the sooner you can understand that, sooner you can start to have certain accounts for your future, and you could do it young, means that much more you can get ahead of it, so that if you have good times, bad times, if you always just say 10% of this is not just going in savings or 5% is going to go towards some type of retirement fund that has a compounding interest effect, like that, the sooner you get that, like the sooner you can pursue these 9 different jobs every 3 years, but at least you've committed in yourself, what I make from these things, I'm going to be putting in some type of thing, because I don't know where I'll be at in 40 years. I don't know that I'm going to have enough time that I gave to a job that's going to have a pension or a matching retirement plan. And if you don't, I don't know what 2060 is going to look like.
Well, 30% of people have a budget. That means 70% of people don't manage their money off of a budget. So, and a budget is this is my income. We always talk about income. How much did you make? How much did you make? We don't talk about outcome.
Yeah.
Like, so what percentage of your money goes to entertainment? What percentage of your money goes to travel? What percentage of your money goes to bill? If you don't know that, then you're just going off of theory. So that's why people have like a savings season instead of a savings discipline. So when you have a savings discipline, it's because this is the amount of money I make today. And based upon this, 75% of my money goes to bills, or 58%. Like, know that. Know how much you make. Because my dad always taught me from it does not matter how much you make. It matters what you do with the money you have.
That's good.
So, okay, here's the money I have. Now, here's my bills. So I got to make adjustments based upon the season of life I'm in and the goals that I have in the future.
That's good.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. My heart goes out to what what season we're in because it's just so many people are unsatisfied with what they're doing and how they're doing it, but they're not untapping their real potential. Like using that girl as an example, like if she's not running someone's social media account, like a company's social media account, she's missing out, I think, on her gifting, which probably leaned closer to that, right?
I think that goes back to what Pastor Aaron said when he was mentioning that, like, not a lot of people take risks. I think, like, if you're unhappy where you're at, you have to try to figure out what it is that you want to do. Like, personally, I was unhappy working in the food industry.
Okay.
So I started trying to find things outside of that I like to do. And it took me steps. I started with taking an art class at school, and I was like, dang, I really hate painting. Like, this isn't for me. Then I found an opportunity to be a part of this student-led club to work with the football team. And I was like, yeah, I know how to do graphics. Never took a graphics design class in my life. I just winged it. And I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Got my shoe in with the football team, started working there. And then I was like, okay, bought myself a $500 camera kit with my credit card because I wasn't smart, but I was like, this is an investment. It's going to be great. That got my foot in the door to serve here on photography. And then Nancy was like, do you want to lead the social media team? And I was like, I've never done social media in my life. And all of these small risks ended up getting me the job that I have now. And people are like, well, how do you have a full-time job? Because I took risks in the beginning, I did a lot of things I didn't want to do that I didn't like. I grinded hard. I did a lot of DoorDash in between my shifts at my food places because I was just trying to make it by. And then I got my foot in the door in a place where I'm like, dang, I actually am doing something that I really love.
Yeah.
And it all started because I decided to take one art class to see if that was like my vibe. I was actually going to take a gap year, not even go to school, and just work because I was like, I really like working. I'm just going to work for a year. My uncle was like, why are you going to do that? Just take a class. And I was like, all right, I'll take a class. And he did graphic design at the time, and I would just sit there and watch him and be like, well, why do you do that? What's the design choice here? Why are you doing this? So I had some knowledge, but before I even took that class, fun fact, he was actually helping me with all my graphics for the football team because I didn't know how to use Photoshop. So I'd be like, how do I do this? And he'd help me make the graphic, and I'd send it to the team. They'd be like, dang, that's fire. Same with photography. I was like, I don't know how to do this, but they had...
Do you know how to use Photoshop now?
Oh, yes. I know how to use Photoshop now. I took a Photoshop class.
But that's community.
Yeah.
I remember when I got my undergrad, and I was so happy I'm done with school. But a colleague next to me who had his master's, do not take a break. Get your master's now. If you take a break, you're not going to go back and get your master's. I listened to that advice. One of the best advice I ever got, but I listened to that. I remember years ago, you told me, hey, man, why don't you have a social media account? You need to put yourself out there. I don't like putting myself out. And
I'm humble. I'm so humble. We all are, Aaron. We're all humble. Start posting.
I remember I was on the Beyond the Letter. I was on this podcast, and then we were hanging out. He was like, did you see your post is doing well? I was like, oh, shoot, I deleted Instagram off my phone. I had to grab it back on my phone. But you got to listen to people that are around you that can help you.
Yeah. So, but the difference is like Alizé's saying that she's 21 now, but she's talking what she was doing at 18, 19, 20. There's unfortunately people right now at 37, 45 who are wrestling through which is like your college years is supposed to be doing that. 18, 19, 17, 18, 19, 20. You're supposed to try art class and try intro to bowling and try all these. That's why they give you electives. It's like so you can do those things and you're in the comfort of a collegiate atmosphere. But we're so inundated and influenced by social media that and going back to what you said earlier, you get comparison. You get into that comparison game. You go, oh, that person's my age. Oh, I'm 30, whatever. That person's 30, whatever. And look, they already have blank, 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 blank. That must mean whatever path I'm on is not the path to that. So I need to start thinking through some decisions. And so then we end up finding ourselves 8, 9 years into something and going, well, I'm done with that. And I'm actually going to start my own business in this. And you get 2 years into this. And then now your wife's looking at you going like, hey, you can get food on this table or what? Like, cause I'm holding it down with the kids and I'm like, you got to hold up your bargain. I'm going to hold up to mine. And then now you have marriage chaos or the husband sacrifices for the wife to get her degree. And then, which I've heard before, the husband goes, man, I'll hold it down for the kids for a season. She goes get her degree. She gets in the career and she comes back. She's like, actually, I don't enjoy it. I'll just hang out with the kids. And then he'll be like, we spent 4 years sacrificing for you to have your degree on the hope for you to get more money. But now you're telling me you don't like it. Now you're telling me, and we're in our 30s, like we can't. And that's where you're having a lot of people's, like, their relationships are being affected, their marriages are being affected. But it's not necessarily because it's a pursuit of like a big dream. It's because there's a big question mark over their head. And they're like, we don't know how to be financially where we want to be. They just don't know. They don't know. So then they're just shooting in the dark. Well, maybe I'll take up mortgages. I could be a mortgage lender. Maybe I could take, and it's maybes. It's not like, well, do you love it? No, but I know a guy who has he has a 4,000 square foot house, and he said that it's because he writes loans, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm really praying that works out for you, but someone else's end goal, because you don't know what their personality type is. 100. You don't know who their mentor is. You don't know who what relationship brought them into it. You don't know any of those things, right? But but they say they're going to teach me. Okay, they could teach you, but we don't really know all of their circumstances. I remember a guy would always say he was self-made in real estate. And then I started helping in some of these people's like marketing companies. Come to find out, there was a guy who was like really wealthy who would loan them the money for their home purchases to do flips. And so everyone else has to rely on a traditional lender. So lenders are asking for collateral, and lenders want to know what you've done before. But he taught a class on how you could do what he did, but the one missing piece he was telling you was he had somebody that was worth $30 million who was loaning the money to him. So people were paying for that school. And then he was like, here's the banks here. And you ask him, did you ever use that bank? If you really asked him, it'd be like, no, I never used that bank. It's like, oh, I'm being sold by your lifestyle without knowing your tricks. Because if you tell me your tricks, either you show me the impossibility that it is for me to get to where you're at, or what you're doing is telling me that then you're bringing me into really a top tier where now we're all fighting for that lender, right? So there's, and that's not always the case, but I have just learned, like, unless you're in the kitchen seeing how the sausage is made, going very weary on a front end financial promise that we see around a lot of days. Just do your homework, and if your work ethic can match their work ethic and their ability to network or whatever else, if you can evaluate and go, oh, I can genuinely do that. I can genuinely sacrifice like they sacrifice. I could genuinely wake up before the sun gets up like they're waking up. If you can evaluate, then run for it. Like, go for it. Like, do it. But you have to first just go, does my personality work for what it will take to do that sacrifice? Like Gage honestly said, was like, this entrepreneurial life of, because he was doing therapy based off clients, this ain't going to be more of my jam.
No.
My jam is going to be working under a clinic that gives regular clients that's maybe more of a fixed income, but gives you more freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think that goes into like, I'm in a financial literacy class right now, and part of the budget planning is first sitting down, finding out who you are and what you want. So part of budgets and money is learning who are you and what do you want in life, because a lot of people are hopping from job to job because they're trying to find fulfillment in something, which comes from a space of what brings me joy, and they're trying to find that space. And so even for me, as I try to venture and do other things, I've had great community come and just tell me, hey, you're good at this, like lean into this, stay in this. And so I think all of this goes back to community, and community helps you understand who you are and what you're gifted in, and you can choose to put your energy towards the things that you're good in, instead of, I have so many friends who are, it's between 22 and 25, who are so desperately trying to find out who they are through career. And so that's why I have a friend who's probably in the last 2 years had 8 different jobs. And the root of it is she is not fulfilled in who she is. So she's trying to find it in these jobs. And I'm like, let's just pause. Before we find out how much money you want to make, what brings you life? Yeah. What do you love? Because then we can find out how to make income from that. So sorry, Gage, carry on.
No, you're good. I think that's, I mean, if I could take from that, that's what I had to like struggle through was, okay, who am I and what am I good at? I do therapy. I'm good at therapy, but I'm also really good at strategy. I'm also really good at building these relationships. I'm really good at putting pieces of the puzzle together. Therapy doesn't allow you to do that. It's literally, client A, client B, client C. Okay, cool, we did that day 1, day 2. And so now you're back to back. But then another thing they don't tell you, client doesn't show, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
You know, so like you're
Yeah.
also, and so I'm like wondering, I'm doing something I'm good at, but I'm not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that goes back to the questions that you have to ask. So what is going to give me that fulfillment? Okay, so then I find it somewhere else, and I find it working under an organization. Cool. So I can still do the therapy. I can still be strategic, but then now I'm seeing how, like, my purpose is being filled to a greater vision and a greater mission, right? So it's not just in these families that I have an opportunity to touch, but it's within this vision as well that I'm promoting.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, do we have that self-awareness you touched on before? Are we willing to go through that, go down that path? I don't know. I don't know where we're at with millennials and Gen Zs or this alpha generation coming up. If they, want to have those conversations. I don't know if those conversations are scary, but then I'm also thinking when you're in your 20s, you haven't lived enough life yet. The brain is fully developed at 25 years old. So you're still developing while making major decisions. That's not realistic. Like finally at 26 is when everything settled for me. And I was like, oh, I think I know. And then I'm still learning. Oh, a budget. Oh, every dollar has a name. Oh, there's these things that you're still learning and gathering. But I think you have to have the wisdom to know what is it that I'm missing and what do I need and where do I get that from?
Yeah, and understanding that part of fulfillment in whatever you do will be seasons where you will not be fulfilled. So I think there's a lot of our generation who they get into something they think they love, and the moment they hit, like, oh, I actually don't like this part, they move on. Mm-hmm. But with anything that we do, whether we love it or not, there will be seasons where it will be difficult and hard. And I don't think our generation will stay in something long enough to see the hard season through. So that would be my encouragement. Just stay in it a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer, because if you go to the next thing you think you love, you'll hit that season again where you're like, oh, this is not it. And that's where the job hopping comes. So I would say, and that came for wisdom from people older than me. When I go through difficult seasons, just stay in it a little bit longer. Just stay in it a little bit longer.
So staying in a little bit longer, also the critical piece that I'm seeing that's missing is meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
Meaningful relationships bring fulfillment. So even when you're going through a hard time, if I have real community that I trust, that loves me, that's there for me, I can still learn in that season. I can still feel like I'm not alone in that season.
Yeah.
I got people that'll help me in that season. I'm learning more, and I can take those failures to other levels of success.
Yeah.
But it's when I go through those hard times, but I'm still trying to show that I'm winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when that person is really falling apart because they don't have anyone that can be truly themselves with.
And that's huge. Like when in 2020 during COVID, we'd been interviewed, and I've said before, we were offered a show on Oprah's network, me and Ashley, and the first thing I did, I took a couple meetings to get, and then they said they were really, really wanting to do something with us, and there's going to be good money attached to it, and all these other things like that. And what happened was I went to the 5 closest people to me, and not one of them looked at it as a positive thing. All of them, the first time I said it, was just more like, well, tell me more about it. I'd say, they'd all go, well, preachers on TV, reality shows is a big risk with that. And, all 5 of the closest people in my life immediately just were like, not one of them had an initial gut reaction of like, man, this could be great. I had one person that was like, yeah, there's 2 sides to this. Could be good, could continue to grow the church and people know your ministry and, blah, blah, blah. But then there's the other flip side that, they could put you in a circumstance that make you come out of your flesh, and they film it or edit it in a way that isn't to your character, and you can't get back that. Your character's everything, Adam, and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, you know what? Everyone I've talked to had so many cons. It was going to be good money, like really, really good money. And I was like, but it's not worth it. Just hearing from the people that I respect, hearing their concerns right off the bat took my logic out of it. Because my heart was like, well, it's great, this could be cool, and hey, look, it's this, and you're looking at the prestige and the acumen and all that stuff, and it's Oprah and blah, blah, blah. And these were her head producers and all that we were talking to, and then it was just like, yeah, but everyone that doesn't benefit from that glossy front end like no one's for it. So let me just back off it then. And we just completely backed off it because we were like, we just have to listen to outside voices more than right now. Now, if God came from heaven and it was a thus saith the Lord, and then I would be like, hey guys, I'm just being obedient to God. But it takes so much for me to say that. I don't just, some people say that willy-nilly. Like, I think the Lord's telling me to do this. I think the Lord.
Yeah.
So really for me, it was like, if all my community is saying no, if we end up deciding yes, it's because it's going to have to be such a thus saith the Lord that no one could rationalize it, and God's going to do his thing through it. But it wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. So we were just like, all right, let's move on. And for us, it was a really good decision that, we saw so much other things come out of it that probably wouldn't have come out of it if we did something like that, because it would have took so much time out of our life and stuff like that. So to me, to your point, like, to come to your friends and be like, I know it, guys. I'm going to start my own business and do blank. And to be able to have people really around you be like, but is that really you?
Yeah.
Are you going to really, are you going to go to farmers markets every weekend? Because you be trying to lay in bed every weekend, it means every Saturday and Sunday you start this company, you're going to have to be talking to vendors. You're going to have to go to farmers markets. You're going to have to, you're going to have to go to Orange County, to LA, to that. Are you going to do that? That's a lot of work. They're like, well, yeah, are you going to do? If you do, I'm for you. I love you. And then they go, you know what, guys? I decided I'm going to do it. I'm going to start my own soap company. Are all you guys going to buy my soaps? And then it's like, why do we all have to buy your soaps? We don't even know if they're good. And then a lot of people go like, oh yeah, my friends aren't supporting me. So ain't supporting you what? They're not buying my soaps. Why do they need to buy your soaps?
The support was, don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The support was the challenge.
Yeah.
The support was the
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
When I had my marketing company, when I first started, I didn't go to all my friends and say, hey guys, you guys got to hire me. I'm going to start managing your social media accounts. Like, I did not expect my friends to be my first clients,
Yeah.
But that's where a lot of people go, and they go, well, my friends don't believe me this, and that's why I cut them off, and this and that. And we're thinking that other people are responsible for making us successful on the front end. No, your close relationships are responsible for telling you the truth. And if that's all you, and it's like, hey, that's a great idea, then if they come and support it financially, that's secondary. But those don't go hand in hand,
No. And in that conversation, you weren't looking for your yes. You weren't trying to justify why you should. You were fully receptive of it. And so, like, it takes a humble posture. Okay, what are they seeing outside of me? And I think, like, maybe getting back to that of, like, just because I don't agree doesn't make it any less true.
Yeah.
Right? They may be seeing something on the outside, so let me lean further into this so that, like Chelsea said, I can stay a little bit longer because they're seeing something from a completely different lens. And so now if I'm just looking for my yes or I'm just, then why are you going to community?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
if
for sure.
somebody is in the opposite position where, because we're talking in a sense of like staying in something longer, doing something or not doing something, like you not going and getting that show. But what if there's somebody, and my mind is strictly in like Gen Z because that's a lot of who I'm around all the time. So what if there is somebody who is, their community is telling them to do something. Hey, you should really think about this. You should really think about this. And they have multiple people trying to push them in a direction, but they don't have a sense of peace in that. How would you encourage that person where all of their community is saying you should do something, but you're like, I don't know.
Well, I would probably ask them to explain more on why they think I should, because sometimes people see stuff especially if they're younger. Someone sees something in them that, and also you'd have to ask yourself, why am I saying no?
Yes.
Am I saying no because I don't know that I want to work that hard, or do I want to work? Do I feel like whatever it is, right? Like, what are the reasons for the no? And also, what are your reasons for your community encouraging you in that direction? Because they may have insight on, like you just have no idea that they see something in you. And so I'm just talking to a pastor I had coffee with this morning, and I was like, 7 years ago when my dad saw in me to lead pastor of the church, majority of his friends in the church thought he was a lunatic, and he lost some of his friends in the church for believing in me. And so they left other churches, and many of them have come back now and stuff like that, or have restored with my dad. But he saw something in me I didn't, which was not to help him with the church that he launched. I just thought I'd go do my own church one day. So that was the concept of, if I was like, yeah, I don't know, Dad, but my literal response to him when he said, hey, I want you to be the next senior pastor of the church, I said, if you see this in me, then I will pray that I see it in myself. You know, like,
It's a great prayer.
because I didn't.
Yeah.
I just truthfully didn't see, it wasn't on my horizon. And so Ashley had said it for many years. I think when your dad retires, it's going to be, and I'd laugh. I'd be like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm way too, big ideas. I've got tattoos all over. My dad wears suits and sing gospel choir every weekend. It just like conceptually for many years, it was just like, this does not make like it correlate sense, but I chose to help and just ask God to give me the eyes for it. Ask God to show me this. So that's where I would say that, encourage that. And other times you just need to ask more questions. Just ask more questions, have perspective. I was just talking to your oldest daughter the other day, and she was in the kitchen table because she helps watch my kids, and she asked if our water bill was a subscription service.
Praise God.
I said, what do you mean? Because we told her because when she, this, like when she takes showers, they're like hour showers, and she does one at night, one in the morning.
Oh yeah.
So I told her, hey, whenever you spend multiple days at our house, my water bill goes up. And she goes, what are you talking about? I said, my water bill goes up when you stay the night and watch my kids. And she goes, water bills don't go up. I said, what are you talking about? She said, don't you subscribe for water bills? Like, isn't it just one flat free? I said, like, how much? How much is a water subscription? She's like, I don't know, $50. I said, okay. I said, so let's just say I fill up my pool, I water all my grass, and my neighbor doesn't use an ounce of water tomorrow or for the rest of the month. My neighbor and me are supposed to pay the same water bill? She's like, yeah, I mean, I just thought everybody kind of did their part. Like, well, that's called socialism. That's called communism. We don't live in that kind of country. And so then now she starts engaging. It's like, what does electric bill look like then? She just now, like, her mind is just like expanded. Like, oh my gosh, I just thought, and I'm like, if you're in an apartment, sometimes it's a fixed rate or sometimes it's included. So there are some nuances, but I go overall, I'm responsible for my own water. I'm responsible for my own gas, my own this. So now she's looking at, because this, she would for a long time be like, oh, I'm going to move out one day. I'm going to have my own apartment with my best friend one day. But now after that conversation, I'm sure others with you guys, she's going, I don't think I can afford this. I'm like, I know you can't afford this. Like,
that's why I said you always have a room.
Exactly. Like, you can't. And a lot of times just asking more questions helps lead to wisdom now that goes, oh, now I know why they see this in me, or now I know why they don't see this in me. Because a lot of times people close to you know you better than you in some areas, right? And so having them speak in you, just be like, Adam, why are you taking a job that starts at 6 a.m.? You know you ain't waking up at 4 a.m. consistently. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right. For sure. You're right. Yeah. But it's $2 more an hour. Yeah, but you're going to end up being let go in 18 months because you can't. That's not you. You're not a people person. Why are you picking up a sales job? You hate talking to people. It's just that kind of stuff. And then, but it like, I know a guy who gets paid well in it. It's like, yeah, but that's not you. Yeah. Or hey, this is you. You should go into sales. And it's like, no, I don't like. For some people, they go, I don't like the fact. I want something stable. Mm-hmm. But there are some people who are built to be entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you go, no, you need the hunger of not knowing when you're going to make your next paycheck, because that's what gets you up in the morning, right? Yeah. One of my best friends is an entrepreneur, and what wakes him up in the morning is the fact that he don't know what next month is going to look like. And that's what gets him going. That's the only way if he worked for someone, he'd be dead inside in that sense, right? Man. The only thing that gets him going is the fact that he has to bust his butt for the next 30 days to make sure he can make it to the next. And he's very successful, right?
You reminded me.
And that's what drives him, you know?
You reminded me of Trinity this morning.
Yeah.
My 5th grader, my entrepreneur who has a slime business and now a candy business.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I said, Trinity, you're in 5th grade. I'm not going to wake you up anymore. You're getting older. You got to wake yourself up. I'll wake you up at a $5 fee. So this morning, I go in her room at 6:29, and as I'm walking in, she stands up because she don't want to lose that money. You find what motivates that person.
That's her all day.
Yeah. But if I were like, get up and you got to do that, it wouldn't resonate. But if I connected to her motivator, when I walk,
I'm up. Don't take my $5.
Because she wants to get this activator for her slime.
Don't take my money, Dad. That's funny. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Throw some comments. If you got your own thoughts on all this, we'd love to see it. Throw it in the comments or in the chat.
Pistachio-nut ice cream.
No.
Sherbet all the way.
I can't even agree with Alizé right now.